Welcome to Honeybee. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Real stories of love, lies, and betrayal, where every truth stings. Let's begin. I still remember that night vividly. The air outside was thick with rain, and the sound of thunder rolled in the distance as I pulled into the driveway. I had worked late, stayed over time just to finish a project my boss needed before morning. My only thought was to get home, shower, and fall asleep beside my wife, Layla. But the moment I stepped through the door, the warmth I hoped for vanished instantly. She was standing in the living room, arms crossed, her eyes cold enough to freeze the air around her. The glow from the television flickered across her face, and the silence between us felt heavier than any storm outside. I shut the door gently behind me and set my keys on the counter. "Long day," I said softly, trying to sound casual. "I brought your favorite takeout. Thought we could have a late dinner." She didn't even look at the bag in my hand. Instead, she gave me a smirk that didn't reach her eyes. "You can keep it," she said. "You're not staying inside tonight." Her words caught me completely off guard. "What?" I asked, thinking I must have misheard her. "What do you mean I'm not staying inside?" She sighed, like she was talking to someone who just didn't get it. "You're sleeping in your car tonight," she said, each word sharp and deliberate. "My real boyfriend is coming over." For a moment, I stood frozen. My brain refused to process what she had just said. Her tone wasn't joking. Her expression wasn't playful. It was serious, deadly serious. I swallowed hard, searching her face for any hint that she might be teasing or angry about something else. But no, there it was, the cruel amusement dancing behind her eyes, the satisfaction of watching my confusion turn to disbelief. "You can't be serious," I muttered, taking a cautious step toward her. "Layla, what's going on? Is this some kind of joke?" Her laugh was cold and short. "Do I look like I'm joking? I'm done pretending, Mark. You've been nothing but a paycheck to me for years. He's the one I actually want to be with. And tonight, he's coming over. So pack your stuff and get out." I blinked several times, my heart pounding in my chest. "You're throwing me out of my own house?" I said quietly. "The house I pay for? The house we built together?" She shrugged. "Call it whatever you want. But I'm not sleeping next to you tonight. He's coming, and I don't want to deal with your face when he walks in." Her words sliced through me like glass. All the years of sacrifices, late nights, and endless efforts to make her happy, suddenly they meant nothing. Every promise, every tender moment, every dream we built, it all shattered in that instant. "Layla," I said, my voice cracking, "if there's something wrong between us, we can talk. We can fix this. Don't do something you'll regret." She rolled her eyes and turned away, picking up her phone from the couch. "There's nothing to fix," she said, typing rapidly. "He'll be here any minute. So either you leave now, or I'll call the cops and tell them you're refusing to leave." It was surreal, like I'd stepped into someone else's nightmare. My own wife threatening me just to make room for another man. I could feel my throat tightening, the air getting harder to breathe. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break, but the pain was almost unbearable. "Wow," I whispered, more to myself than to her. "After everything we've been through." "Don't make this dramatic, Mark," she said with an eye roll. "It's simple. You and I are over. I've moved on. He makes me feel alive." "You don't." I wanted to shout, to demand answers, to remind her of the woman who once held my hand through thick and thin. But instead, I found myself backing away, feeling smaller with every step. My chest felt hollow. My hands trembled as I grabbed my jacket from the hanger near the door. Outside, the rain had started to fall heavier, blurring the porch light into a dull haze. I stood under for a moment, drenched and lost, trying to figure out what had just happened. My car sat there in the driveway, cold and lonely, waiting for me like it already knew it would become my bed for the night. I sat inside, closed the door, and leaned my head against the steering wheel. The rain hammered the roof above me as if the sky itself was mocking my misery. I could still see the faint light from our bedroom window, her window, where I had once watched her read late into the night. And now, that same room would host someone else. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at that window, but the ache in my chest grew heavier with every passing minute. I could imagine them laughing, whispering, maybe even kissing, right where we used to share our dreams and secrets. The thought was unbearable, and yet I couldn't drive away. I couldn't leave the home I built. Not like that. Hours passed. My phone buzzed repeatedly. Friends texting, asking if I was okay after I missed the evening gathering we planned. I couldn't bring myself to answer. What was I supposed to say? My wife just kicked me out because her boyfriend is coming over? At some point, exhaustion took over. I reclined my seat, wrapped my jacket tighter around me, and tried to close my eyes. But every sound from the house, the faint laughter, the creak of the door, the distant murmur of voices, felt like another stab to the heart. I could hear the rhythm of her betrayal echoing through the night. Around midnight, my phone buzzed again, but this time was from an unknown number. I hesitated before opening the message. "You deserve better, man. I'm sorry you had to find out like this." I frowned, reading the words twice. The number wasn't saved, but the message was clearly from someone who knew what was happening. I quickly replied, "Who is this?" A moment later, another message appeared. "Let's just say I'm not the only one she's been lying to. We need to talk." My heart skipped. Was his boyfriend texting me? Or another man entirely? The realization hit like lightning. Layla might have been lying to both of us. My exhaustion vanished, replaced by a sharp, angry curiosity. I looked toward the house again. The lights were still on. I could see shadows moving through the curtains. I clenched my jaw, torn between staying put or marching inside to confront her. But some instinct held me back. Maybe I wasn't ready yet. Not until I knew the full truth. So I waited. I stayed in that car through the night, the engine off, the cold creeping in. My hands shook as I replayed every memory, every sign I'd ignored. The late-night work meetings, the sudden new wardrobe, the secretive texts she claimed were from friends. I had trusted her completely, and now I felt like a fool. When the sun finally began to rise, the house went quiet. No more laughter, no more movement. Just silence and the faint glow of dawn reflecting off the wet pavement. I sat there, numb, watching as she stepped out the front door, still dressed in her robe, holding a cup of coffee like nothing had happened. She didn't even glance toward the car. She just sipped her drink, smiled at her phone, and went back inside. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. Something inside me shifted. The pain was still there, but beneath it, something else was starting to form. Resolve. I wasn't going to let her destroy me quietly. I wasn't going to walk away like a beaten man. If she wanted to play cruel games, then she had no idea who she was dealing with. The next morning felt unreal. My body ached from sleeping in the car, my neck stiff, my heart even heavier than the night before. The early sunlight filtered through the windshield, cutting across my face like sharp blades. For a while, I just sat there staring at the front door, trying to understand how everything had come crashing down so fast. Layla, the woman I'd loved, trusted, and shared my world with, had thrown me out as if I were a stranger. I didn't know if I wanted to cry or scream. But one thing was clear. I couldn't live like that. Not in silence. Not with unanswered questions. The mysterious text from last night kept flashing in my mind. "You deserve better, man. I'm sorry you had to find out like this." Whoever that person was, they clearly knew what had happened. Maybe they knew the truth about her real boyfriend. I started the car and drove a few blocks away, parked by a cafe, and checked my phone again. There were no new messages. I typed a quick reply. "I want to know who you are. Please tell me what you meant." After a few long minutes, my phone buzzed. "Meet me at the corner of Pine and Maple. 9 a.m. I'll explain everything." I looked at the time, 8:40 a.m. I didn't even think twice. I turned the key, drove toward that intersection, and parked by a quiet alley where the morning breeze carried the scent of wet earth. A man was already standing there, hands in his pockets, looking uneasy. He was about my age, maybe mid-30s, dressed in a plain hoodie and jeans. He looked up when he saw me, and his expression told me everything before he even spoke. "You're Mark, right?" he asked. "Yeah," I said cautiously. "Who are you?" He hesitated, then sighed. Name's Eric. I guess you could say I'm the other fool in this story. My chest tightened. You're the boyfriend? He shook his head bitterly. One of them, apparently. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The world around us felt eerily still. Then he continued, his voice rough and tired. She told me she was single. Said she'd been divorced for a year. We've been seeing each other for about 6 months. I only found out yesterday when one of her neighbors mentioned you. I felt my stomach twist. 6 months? I repeated, so she's been cheating that long? He nodded slowly. At least. But that's not the worst part. There's another guy, too. Some doctor she met through work. She's been playing all of us. I leaned back against my car, trying to process it all. The betrayal I'd felt last night suddenly deepened. She hadn't just broken her vows. She'd turned our marriage into a circus of lies. Eric ran a hand through his hair and said quietly, I'm sorry for what you went through last night. I didn't know you existed until now. If I had, I'd never have gone near her. I studied him for a long moment. His expression was sincere, his eyes filled with the same exhaustion and anger I felt inside. Somehow, it helped to know I wasn't alone in this nightmare. What are you to do? He asked after a while. I looked toward the horizon. I don't know yet, but I'm not walking away quietly. Not this time. We talked for a few more minutes. He showed me screenshots of their messages, photos, dinner dates, all the proof I needed to confirm what I already knew in my heart. When we parted ways, I felt strangely calm. That calm wasn't peace, it was focus. I drove back home, my mind spinning with a plan. I wasn't going to yell or beg or argue. I was going to show her exactly what she had thrown away. When I arrived, her car was gone. The house was quiet, just as she'd left it. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and looked around. Every corner held a memory. Our wedding photo on the wall, the framed vacation picture from Italy, the anniversary gift I'd saved for months to buy her. They all stared back at me like ghosts from a happier time. I started gathering my belongings, my clothes, tools, documents, laptop, and personal items. As I packed, I took photos of every luxury item, every expensive thing she bought using my money, the furniture, the jewelry, the car I'd help her finance. I wanted proof. Proof of what she'd gained while breaking every promise we made. It took me 3 hours to get everything organized. Then I called my lawyer, Mr. Hanley, a calm, no-nonsense man I trusted. Mark, he said after hearing my story, you need to come in today. Bring any evidence you have. This isn't just infidelity. This could affect property rights, alimony, and more. Don't confront her again until we filed. I agreed, feeling a strange sense of control return. For the first time in years, I was doing something for myself. When Layla finally came home that afternoon, she looked surprised to see me standing there. Her hair was messy, and she wore sunglasses even though it wasn't bright outside. I thought I told you to sleep in your car again if you had to, she said flatly, brushing past me toward the kitchen. I didn't move. We need to talk. She scoffed. About what? I made myself clear last night. Yeah, you did, I said quietly. But I think you forgot to mention you've been lying to more than one person. Her hand froze on the counter. Slowly, she turned toward me, her face tightening. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone and held it up. On the screen was a picture, her and Eric laughing together in a restaurant, taken just 2 weeks ago. Color drained from her face. Where did you get that? From a guy who thought you were single, I said. He wanted to apologize. Seems he didn't know about me or the doctor either. For the first time, she didn't have a comeback. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. You used me, Layla, I said softly. You used my home, my money, my loyalty, and when you were done, you threw me out like trash. You could have just told me the truth, but instead, you decided to humiliate me. She swallowed hard, tried to regain her composure. You're overreacting. It's not what it looks like. I let out a quiet laugh. You said your real boyfriend was coming over, remember? That doesn't sound like an overreaction to me. Her eyes darted nervously. Mark, listen. No, I interrupted firmly. You listen. I've already spoken to my lawyer. Everything you bought with my money, it's being documented. The accounts we shared, frozen. The house? You're moving out. You wanted me gone last night, so now you can see what that really feels like. Her jaw dropped. You can't do that. Oh, I can, I said calmly. Because you made it easy. You committed adultery and kicked your husband out of his own home. That's called evidence. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Her bravado was gone. The woman who once mocked me with cold laughter now stood trembling, realizing the consequences of her choices. I'll send someone to collect my remaining things, I added. After that, I'm done. I won't waste another tear on you. As I turned to leave, she finally spoke, her voice trembling. Mark, please wait. I made a mistake. I didn't mean any of that. I was angry, confused. I stopped at the doorway. You weren't confused when you told me to sleep in my car while you brought another man into our bed, I said quietly. That wasn't confusion. That was cruelty. Her eyes glistened with tears, but it was too late. I walked out without looking back. That night, I stayed at a hotel. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the city lights outside the window. My heart still hurt, but it was a different kind of pain, one that came with clarity. I had spent years trying to please someone who never truly valued me. Now I was free from her lies. A week later, the divorce papers were filed. Layla tried calling several times, leaving tearful messages about how she missed me, how nothing happened that night. I didn't reply. Sometimes silence is the loudest answer you can give. A few months passed. Life slowly began to take shape again. I started jogging every morning, focusing on my health, on my career, on rediscovering the man I'd forgotten. One evening, as I sat by the park watching the sunset, I saw Eric again. He waved from a distance, smiling faintly. We'd kept in touch. Two men who'd been fooled by the same person, both tried to rebuild what she had broken. You doing better? He asked when we met halfway. Yeah, I said. It still hurts sometimes, but it's getting easier. He nodded. She called me too. Tried to explain. I blocked her. Good, I said with a small smile. We both deserve better. For the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of peace. The betrayal still lived somewhere in my memory, but it no longer defined me. That night, as I drove home, I passed by the old house. The lights were off, the driveway empty. For a moment, I slowed down, looking at the windows where I once dreamed of a future with her. Then I whispered to myself, I forgive you, but I'm done. And for the first time since that painful night, I truly meant it.